When I was a kid, I ate cereal every day. If it had a cartoon mascot, I was there. The tiger, a toucan, the leprechaun, the really cool bear. Yeah, all of them. But as I got older, I realized I'm basically eating giant bowls of sugar every day. And you can't do that. You're just going to get fat. So I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I cut cereal out of my life. And it was very sad. It was heartbreaking because I love cereal. Like I said, the bee mascot, the sun that had the scoops of raisins, all of it. Fortunately, there is a way as a grown-up to still eat cereal and not have it affect you the way it would if it was a giant bowl of sugar, because Magic Spoon is not a giant bowl of sugar. In fact, it has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. That's only 140 calories per serving. It is keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low carb. You can build your own box. The available flavors right now that you can build a custom bundle with are cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. I recommend the frosted, the blueberry, the cinnamon, and the cookies and cream and the maple waffle. They were limited time flavors. Everyone loved them so much. Magic Spoon brought them back, and now you can make them part of your own custom bundle. So you go to magicspoon.com/Andy to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code Andy at checkout to get $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Andy. Use the code Andy to save $5 off. Welcome to the Andy Staples Show. I know I promised a bowl preview, and we will get to the bowls that are starting. You're listening to this on a Friday. The bowls start today. There's football in the Bahamas today, Ari Wasserman, but there's a lot going on. I think perhaps we underestimated how heavy the news cycle was going to be with early signing period, transfer portal, NIL, and, oh, by the way, NFL news that touches the college football world. Because the thing the whole football community is buzzing about as we record this on Thursday is Urban Meyer got fired by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, you know, Ari, I've been thinking a lot about this situation. And because I every time this was even brought up, the response from fans would be, well, he'll just go get another job in college, and every college will try to snap him up. You know, if Ryan Day goes to the Bears, Ohio State will just bring him back. And all right, I'm curious. We've both covered Urban Meyer as beat writers. We've both covered major college football for a while now. Do you think Urban Meyer would get another college job?
I have been struggling with this for a long time, and I don't want to put Bill Landis's words in his mouth, so I hope that I am saying this right, but I think that Landis thought that he wasn't employable in college before all this happened. So to me, I just wonder, like, I'm not sure that the jobs that he would want would take him. Like, I think that middle tier teams or lower tier teams might take a risk.
Like,
but I don't know if
directional Missouri, like the one that hired Bobby Petrino.
Yes. Well, and I don't know if it's fair to put Urban Meyer in the same category as some of the other people that, you know, have been in those positions, but also too, it wasn't even just that things didn't go well in Jacksonville. Obviously they didn't. The team was dysfunctional, but he reportedly put his hands on another adult. You know what I mean? Or feet, however you want to put it. He was behaving
that appears to have been the final straw. Was Josh Lambo, the former Jags kicker, telling Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times that Meyer kicked him during the warm-up for a preseason game. And Meyer has denied it. So let's get that out there first and foremost. But if that happened, the way Lambo said it happened, I'm not sure Meyer's employable anywhere in major college football. But I would argue that even if that's not true, that video of Urban Meyer from Columbus might nuke him completely. And here's why. Ari, what do you and I always wind up talking about, even when we don't mean to?
What do you
other
mean?
than food, of course.
No, we always talk
Recruiting.
about food.
We,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we all
No, we
it
mean to.
always
That's
comes
where I was
back to
confused.
recruiting.
I mean to talk about
Yeah,
recruiting. Yeah.
yeah, because recruiting is the most important thing in college football. Clearly, it was a very important to Urban Meyer's college football career. He was great at stockpiling really good players and using an abundance of talent to win a lot of games. I'm not sure with that video available for anyone on the internet of him in the bar, I'm not sure he could recruit anymore. Because remember, Urban Meyer preaches a big game. But if Urban Meyer comes into your living room preaching, I'm going to make your son a better man and teach him how to be a leader and blah, 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 the next coach who comes into that living room is going to go, oh, did he show you this video? And that's it. It's over.
Yeah. I wonder, too, the thing that you have to take into account is he didn't get fired at Ohio State, but his last year was pretty tumultuous. And you still have the Zach Smith stuff hanging over his head, too. It's not just like there isn't one major thing. And maybe if he were a college coach, he would have gotten fired for the video that was on the internet. But there isn't one major
If he had been
smoking
at Ohio
gun.
State, actually, Ari, I'm curious. Let's unpack that a little bit. Let's say he never leaves Ohio State. Let's say he survives the Zach Smith thing, which he did, and instead of retire or resigning at the end of the 2018 season, he just keeps coaching Ohio State. And that same thing happens. Now, I doubt it happens because he's actually living in that community. But let's say the same thing happened. That probably would have been it, right? Because there was a faction at Ohio State that wanted to fire him. Not fans, but a faction within the administration at Ohio State that wanted to fire him over Zach Smith.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. Like, I could see both sides to it because it's like on one hand, he didn't commit a crime and he's an adult.
Right.
And whether or not it was morally right or wrong, it's his ability as a free citizen to go grind up on a person at a bar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And as
like
an NFL coach, it was more about like not going back with the team and all that.
Yes.
You're not preaching morality and all that stuff in recruiting to NFL players. So that wasn't the issue at all.
But I do think that it does make you look like a hypocrite in a world where the only thing that you preach is development, trust, better man. He also, speaks about the Bible and the importance of religious aspects of things when he's recruiting players. So like there's a lot of different angles to this. Now, here's the one thing I will say. There is no doubt in my mind that Urban Meyer is one of the best coaches available in college football when it comes to building a program. And, if I were the athletic director without all this nonsense over my head, I would take what Urban Meyer has done and who he is as a program builder and think that he is the best possible candidate for my job. So the question, in my opinion, isn't necessarily whether or not Urban Meyer is able to do that or is good enough. It's whether or not you think that all the things that have occurred off the field, because there isn't like one, unless you think that the video is of him at the bar is a smoking gun. There isn't one smoking gun of irrefutable evidence that you could say this is the one thing that Urban Meyer did that makes him unemployable. But when you bring up everything, whether it's the Zach Smith scandal or stuff that happened in Florida after he left, all the stuff that happened in Jacksonville, the kicking of a kicker, telling his assistants they're losers, all the things that he has been accused of in totality makes it a really hard picture to paint. So like, to me, I think it's interesting because as time goes on in sports, it's very easy to forget what people have done. A year goes by, 5 more power jobs open up in college football. Urban Meyer is out there, and then all of a sudden every single message board on the face of the earth is going to be like, why not Urban? Because everybody is so outraged right now. But the one thing I will tell you is that the masses on the message boards don't give a crap about any of this stuff. So it's about whether or not a college administrator or a president or an athletic director believes that he's an employable person. And at that point, I think he would become a candidate. Now, will he? I don't know. Would he go to a middle tier school and try to rebuild something just based on his name? I doubt it. I don't know. But it's like, I don't think he's going to be walking into the Notre Dame job in 2 years. You know what I mean? Or the jobs that he would have been considered for, the USC rumors, Florida State, even Florida. These are all jobs that I think are too big for him right now.
Yeah, and I'm curious because that's another factor in this is would he take the job that might be available to him? And I'm trying to figure out what is that job? Like what level are we talking about? Like Indiana?
I mean, I don't think so. Would he? I mean, I think that
It's
Urban
too big.
Meyer's,
Or he would is that too big or he wouldn't take it?
I think he would not take it. But then again, when
Okay.
I think about it, the thing that I know about Urban Meyer is that his favorite part about coaching, I think, is the build. So if
Right.
you put yourself in his mind, he might think this job is in the Big Ten. It's bordering on Ohio. I can take Indiana as a joke of a program in his mind. I'm not saying Indiana's a
Right.
joke.
Right. Right.
And build this thing into a playoff team, especially in the expanded playoff era, and then enhance his resume. Because there's one thing I do know for sure. Urban Meyer cares deeply about what people think of him. He cares about his reputation, he cares about his legacy, and he cares about, you know, no asterisks being next to his name. And maybe that ship has sailed, but next to those 3 national championship trophies that he has. So if he has a chance to come back somewhere in some capacity and win again and leave that as the lasting memory of him, I think that would be an enticing thing for him to want to do. Because the end of Ohio State was a disaster, even though he was able to resign. You know, the whole thing just didn't feel right after that happened. And then, you know, the way that it was like the 4th shortest tenure in the history of NFL coaching, and that's like goes back
Yeah.
to the beginning of time. Like I think that he probably will want to wash away all of this disgustingness and try his best to like do something the right way. And the thing I will say, Andy, and I think my experience covering Urban Meyer at Ohio State was much different than your experience covering Urban Meyer in Florida.
Mhm.
I think that you could probably say that they're 2 different people, but like some of the things, like, and I've heard the stories of Urban Meyer, like forgetting people's names on the roster and walking by people who weren't very good in the building and not caring about everybody on, you know, like all the things that people say about him. But like all the things that we're reading right now about things that he's doing in Jacksonville would be completely foreign. Like I would have jumped to my computer to write any sort of report if I could confirm he did any of these types of things at Ohio State. In my 7 years covering him there, I never heard anything like this. So
Yeah, the one thing with Jacksonville that sounded really familiar to me is not something that most people would say is a fireable fence, or and some people would even argue that it's the way you should do it. Like when he stopped giving the ball to James Robinson because James Robinson fumbled. Like he was always like that. Like if somebody he had his 2 or 3 guys that he trusted completely and they could do anything and it didn't matter. And then there'd be backs who look like they'd be pretty capable, but if they fumbled once, you'd never see them again. And that sounded on brand. The other
yeah,
stuff, the other stuff, some of it sounds like it could happen. And then we've seen the reason I keep coming back to the video, Ari, and especially in recruiting, is we as human beings respond differently to something we see on video than something we're told about. Remember the remember the basketball coach at Rutgers who was throwing basketballs at the players and screaming and cussing them out and all that stuff?
yes,
All of that was accurately described in print at one point, and he got suspended, and nobody said boo. When the video got leaked, they had to fire him, and then they had to fire the athletic director, Tim Pernetti, who, as a former TV executive, should have known what would happen when the video came out, but had ended up firing them both over it because
yeah,
people respond differently to videos. Ray Rice video saying what happened in that elevator was accurately described in print. Joe Mixon video, what happened in the bar was accurately described in print. But once you saw it, it was like, oh God, oh wow.
yeah. I agree
So
with that. The thing I wonder is, and you made this statement earlier, and I'm not sure I'm with you on it. You said I'm not sure Urban Meyer could recruit again, and that he might lose some kids who might not like that. But if Urban Meyer, who is a personable human who can walk into a living room and command attention and feel sincere, tells you, I'm going to get your kids ready for the NFL. We're going to win big here. Here are my 3 national championship rings. We're going to do it again. I think that people would go play for him. So it's just,
I think you're right. And I think if that's all he focused on, he'd probably be fine.
and also he could go in and
But I
say,
will
yeah, that
say,
video looks terrible. Here's what was actually happening, and spin whatever story he wants to spin the way he tried in the press conference, and people will buy it
but
or they
here's the
won't.
thing.
Like,
I think people are onto that now. Like That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get hammered by the other coaches on that.
The main question I have for you, Andy, is if you are an athletic director or a university president right now, and you are the head coach at Indiana or one of the Big 12 schools that got left over or whatever, and Urban Meyer is available and wanting, is he a hireable human being to lead a Power 5 job right now?
I will tell you what would be my problem if I was an AD is what's next. And this is what I wrote after the video came out, because everywhere he's been, he's sort of manufactured his own chaos. And the fact that happened so early in his Jaguars tenure was pretty concerning, because like it didn't happen at Florida till much later. It didn't happen at Ohio State till much later. Like if he's manufacturing chaos within the first 2 months of the season, like what the hell else is coming around?
Well, here's the main distinction though. In the NFL, you are dealing with millionaire adults who are more stern and able to push back on certain things.
Correct.
And we knew that we knew this.
That's a key difference.
Yeah, and we knew this going into it. Like in college, the brilliance of being a head coach is being able to recruit better players in all the teams that you're playing and assembling a roster that has more draft picks than your opponent. In the NFL, you have to be able to coach these guys not only from an X's and O's standpoint, but you have to relate to millionaires with families and mortgages and kids and bills and social lives. And if they want to go out till 3 a.m. and drink, they're allowed to do that. It's a completely different ball game. So some people are just more fit for the college game. And maybe part of the reason why it blew up so fast for Urban Meyer isn't not to condone his actions, because certainly if they're all true, deserve to lose his job and be called into question about whether he's even employable at the college level. But I think that you can't push an adult or do things or say things to an adult the same way you can to a scholarship 19-year-old. So we don't, like, the thing that has been bothering me is, who did he treat like that at Ohio State? What kicker did he kick it in the Woody Hayes Center that nobody ever, and it's just like, if that happened, then like if other college players came out and said, yeah, well, when Urban Meyer was the head coach at Ohio State, he did this, this, and this to me, and that started, then I think he's done. But if he thinks that he was able to behave differently,
and thus far, nobody's come out and said that.
Yeah. And maybe a person would behave differently in a different environment. If you're coaching a Pee-wee team and you're coaching a high school team, your actions at both places would be different, the same way you would be at college in the NFL. You view the people who play for you as employees of an organization that are expendable if they're not doing their jobs. Thus, you can treat them as expendable pieces of your team, which I would argue is probably the wrong thing to do, but you can. In college, you're talking about kids who aren't compensated, who are trying everything that they can to get Urban Meyer to respect them. And I think thus the leash is a little bit longer for what a college coach might be able to get away with in terms of happenings inside the building when no one's looking. Also, the other thing to take into account, Andy, the access in the NFL is far wider open to the media than it is in the college level.
Yes.
Like Urban Meyer's interactions at Ohio State and Florida, he'd be with these kids 365 days a year. And the media that covered those things might be in the building for a total of 2 days when you add up all the hours from every availability from the 365-day period. So what you're able to see and witness, and like also the kickers, like Lambeau was able to talk to any media member that he wants to at any given time, whereas college athletes are instructed never to talk to the media unless given permission. So it's a completely different ballgame.
I'm glad you're saying all this, Ari, because you are right about college sports in the past. But I think we've learned this week that college sports are different now and are going to continue to be more different and probably more like the NFL. And that I want to get into that when we come back. We got to take a little pause, but when we come back, let's talk about in this era, is that going to change how you have to coach players? And not just Urban Meyer. We can talk about a lot of different coaches in this particular conversation, but how is that going to change? We'll be right back. If you've ever wanted to make your home feel safer, there's no better time than now. This week, our friends at Simply Safe are giving the Andy Staples Show and Friends listeners early access to their holiday deals, 40% off their award-winning home security. We love Simply Safe because it has everything you need to make your home safe. Indoor and outdoor cameras, comprehensive sensors, all monitored around the clock by trained professionals who send help the instant you need it. SimpliSafe was named the best home security system of 2021 by US News and World Report. You can easily customize the system for your home online in minutes and even get free custom recommendations from SimpliSafe. These are SimpliSafe's biggest discounts of the year. You can get a complete home security system starting at just over $100. There are no long-term contracts or commitments, and it's really easy to start feeling a little more peace of mind. Take advantage of SimpliSafe's holiday deals and get 40% off your new home security system by visiting simplysafe.com/athletic. That's simplysafe.com/athletic. Again, that is simplysafe.com/athletic for 40% off your home system. Act 1. Our longtime sponsor, Artifact, provides an amazing way to capture a family story or create an audio portrait of someone you know intimately so you can surprise them with a beautiful podcast episode detailing the times you've been there for one another, the inside jokes, the laughter and the tears you've shared, and all the little things you never want to forget. Act 2. It's a wonderful gift for the people in your life who really value relationships and memories, and Artifact makes it so easy. You set up a remote interview over the phone or a computer with one of Artifact's professional interviewers. They guide you or whomever you'd like through a conversation about a meaningful relationship, a specific period of life, or anything else you'd like to hang on to. It's all about what's important to you. Act 3. Artifact then edits the conversation into a private studio quality episode that you can enjoy now and when those memories inevitably begin to fade. Start making an instant heirloom for your family or your best friend at heyartifact.com and enter the code Andy to save $20 on your first artifact. That's heyartifact.com and the code is Andy to save $20 on your first artifact. Welcome back. So we were talking about Urban Meyer and would he be able to get another college job? Ari, I'm curious because you were talking about all the differences between college and the NFL, and it feels like some of those differences are evaporating in terms of how coaches and players interact, the leverage coaches have over players or players have relative to their coaches. And I feel like the week where the number one overall recruit decided to sign with Jackson State feels like a good time to have that conversation, or the day, earlier on Thursday, Tom Brady announced that he's just signed a bunch of college athletes to be pitch people for his fashion line, including Grayson McCall, who's the quarterback at Coastal Carolina. Other players across various sports. Like, I feel like now, if you're a college coach, you probably need to take more cues from how the NFL coaches interact with their players than how maybe your forebears did.
Which is a little bit interesting because in college, a lot of these guys go from kids to men. It's like a very interesting part of their lives. And sometimes I feel bad referring to prospects as kids because they've gone through life experience that is a lot more like something a 25 to 30-year-old would have experienced and not as much as a college freshman. Like when you compare, my life and what it was like for me to go from high school to college is probably a lot different than it would be for Travis Hunter. And I'm happy that you brought this up because I recorded the Ohio State podcast with Bill earlier today, and I had a 10-minute meltdown on there where I actually used profanity because I was so fired up about this NIL stuff. And Ohio State fans, because that's what we were talking about on the show, were freaking out about how they were losing prospects to Texas A&M and Texas over NIL inadequacies and how NIL is ruining the game. And it just blew my mind, and I think that is a subsect of the discussion that takes place of in the world of NIL deals, should players that are on college programs have their own media availabilities when they want? If they want to speak to a reporter, should they be able to do that? Not only because
Bryce
they
Young has his own podcast, Ari. Like, he can say whatever he wants. Now, he never does say anything controversial, but he could if he wanted to.
When's the last time a college story broke from a current player calling a reporter on the record to discuss something the way that Lambeau did with Urban this week?
Ooh, gosh, it's been a long, long time. Now,
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I can't even think of one.
Yeah, there have been players and their parents who have contacted people off the record, but very rarely do they just say, "Hey, this is what
I
happened."
got something to tell you. Why don't you take this down and write a story about it? So, like,
Yeah,
that in itself, I think is interesting when you're talking about uncomfortable situations, but also in a world of NIL where, businesses are going to be sponsoring these prospects. Talking to the media and expressing your personality is far more important now than it ever's been in the past. And there are certain
yeah,
colleges that have no freshman rules. Well, I think Oklahoma is one of them where Caleb Williams was playing for a month before he talked to the media. And it's just like, yeah, Caleb Williams is the quarterback of Oklahoma and, will get his time to shine in the sun and he's very recognizable. But it's just like, can you really prevent the starting quarterback at Oklahoma because of your dumb freshman rule from talking to the media at his own willingness that might cost him money now? And that's a completely different discussion that's ever been there before. And then the other thing too, Andy, is what do you think about boosters creating these slush funds where everybody on the team that goes to the team just gets $6,000 a semester under,
God
it's like,
bless.
because like that's the
Bring
thing
it
that's
on.
so interesting. It's just like, one, I think it's completely dumb if a prospect chooses a college based solely on an extra $5,000 a semester. And I know that's a lot of money for a college kid. It's a lot of money for anybody. But over the course of a 4-year period, let's say you make 25,000 extra dollars or wherever much you would make. If you go to a place that's not as equipped to develop you into an NFL prospect as another place that might make you less, then that's a dumb financial decision. And then two,
Yeah.
most of the big time programs like Ohio State, who are excusing their lack of signing day splashes and the flip of a top 100 cornerback to Texas on NIL, is that people will adjust and players will get money everywhere, which is a good thing. So, like, I just don't know what everybody's problem is. It's like one of Ohio State's biggest trustees or boosters from the Schottenstein family tweeted out after the signing day ceremony last night, don't worry, I'll be starting a 501c3 nonprofit for the players soon. Details will follow, where Buckeye Nation can support student athletes and the students support local charities, which is just another way of saying, I'm just going to pay everybody. So,
Yeah.
like, okay, fine, then everybody gets paid. And then you go on to next year, and then it'll be the
I-
next
I'm
thing to
I'm
complain
I'm
about.
waiting to see a victim here.
No, I
I'm
don't see
waiting
a
to see a
victim
victim.
either. But like
Yeah.
people say that NIL is ruining college football. If you go back and you look at the 247 sports top 4 players in the country and where they're committed right now, you've got number 1 Travis Hunter to Jackson State, number 2 Walter Nolan to Texas A&M, which by the way is a big time program but isn't necessarily as prevalent in the top 5 overall as other programs have been. Number 3 Luther Burden, St. Louis receiver to Mizzou, and number 4 Travis Shaw, defensive lineman from Greensboro, North Carolina, going to North Carolina. You have other representatives in the top 25, like A&M again at number 6, North Carolina again at number 11, Michigan at 20, Kentucky at 25 after Keontae Goodwin signed with Kentucky earlier on Thursday morning.
Yeah,
Like,
the
it's not,
letter finally got there.
yeah,
Thank
I don't know.
Takis.
The letter was snail mail, I think. And, I already wrote a story about Keontae Goodwin on Wednesday morning that got axed before publication because it wasn't true anymore. And I was very afraid that the story that I wrote about him on Wednesday night was going to be out of date by Thursday morning, but kid got his letter into Kentucky. But that said, Andy, there is a disbursement. Drew Aller, number 27 overall, Penn State, Florida, Kamari Wilson. Not that Florida hasn't been in there in the past, but not in the recent past. Iowa,
In a while,
Xavier
yeah.
Nwankpa. I mean, they're all over the place. And some of these are circumstance, geography, and connections to the university, but still, it's not like it's just Alabama, 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 Alabama. It is, but that's what it always was.
Yeah. And so, and everybody's like, well, but Alabama and Ohio State having as many as they have and Georgia having as many as they have proves that there's no difference. Well, no, this is the first year of this. We've seen that consolidation going on for 10 to 15 years. So
It's not
the
going to just go
first year
away
of this
overnight
isn't going to
either.
completely
Yeah.
undo it.
Yeah.
But
And also,
this
still
suggests
don't think that the decision to go to a place that's not Georgia or Alabama makes sense financially in the short term for top 100 players that actually feel like they're going to be in the NFL in 3 years. It just doesn't.
right. Well, and you brought up a good point. Like the total amount of money right now should not be the final determining factor. I don't know about you. Have you always taken the most lucrative job available to you?
No,
Have you ever turned down something that was going to pay more because maybe the where you were at or the lower paying choice had a higher ceiling?
I have.
Me
I mean,
too.
I got offered jobs early on in my journalism career out of journalism that paid more that I didn't take. Early on in my journalism career, when I was making $25,000 a year in my early 20s, an insurance job offered me 65,000, and that was a lot of money for a
Wow.
22-year-old
That would have
kid.
been hard to turn down back in the day.
And yeah, and I almost took it. And then I wouldn't be on the show with you right now, and I wouldn't be having a blast in my career field. And long term, it worked out financially. So like, it's just, you have to have the ability to do it. Now everybody is complaining about, oh, the handlers here are steering the kid this way, or the manipulation of the kid that way. And it's just like, handlers and manipulators have been a thing since the beginning of time. I saw somebody tweeted a photo of Eric Dickerson in a Trans Am that he was given to by one school
Yeah.
after he went to another. Have you seen that photo?
I believe the accusation is that Texas A&M gave it to him and he drove it to
to
SMU.
him, and he drove it to SMU, which is hilarious. And like, also, if you're a jackass who wants to give a 17-year-old or 18-year-old kid who can transfer in 6 months without playing a snap a new car, then go ahead and do that.
Right.
Like Quinn Ewers was driving around a $75,000 truck in Columbus for 6 months to hand the ball off 2 times. You think that's a smart investment, buddy? Keep doing it.
I actually do think the truck was a smart investment because he had to give it back to the dealership.
No,
they sold it at a profit. They're doing just fine.
It wasn't until you told me you drove a Raptor.
Money while he was at Ohio State for being at Ohio State. You're probably feeling pretty dumb right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand the economics of the truck thing. And like, I wasn't until you told me you drove a Raptor that I realized that these things like maintain their value really, really well. But it's like, my understanding is that most American cars, if you were to drive them for a year and put 10,000 miles on them, would be worth anywhere between $7,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 less on the secondary market a year later. And I understand that's the term of the lease, but it doesn't seem to me that giving out 15 free leasable trucks to student athletes so they can tweet Buyers Auto is a sound investment over the course of a 5-year period. You might cost yourself up to $1 million.
If you know what the invoice price is, you know it is. But
I don't know anything about cars.
Like I just brought up the Brady thing, and here's some of the other athletes: Shador Sanders, the quarterback at Jackson State, George Pickens, the receiver at Georgia, who may not. We think George Pickens is going to the NFL after this, but he had the torn ACL this year, so maybe not. I mentioned Grayson McCall, Cade McNamara, the quarterback at Michigan. So Tommy Boy taking care of his old position. But like, how much does that empower a player when you've got Tom Brady on your side? Like,
yeah,
and the ability to transfer and all this other stuff.
Yeah. The ability to transfer is going to make it interesting because as signing day came and went on Wednesday, there was a ton of speculation about NIL deals that were being offered to players at the last minute that was causing crazy flips to happen. And I felt like NIL discussion replaced Bagman discussion from last year. And like the new thing now is going to be NIL. And it's just like, what are the tangible evidence of these NIL deals if we're ever entitled to having them? Or is it just dumbass speculation from people who are salty that their favorite prospect went to another school? Because it's just like,
everybody wants to believe that
there's some conspiracy financially that's ruining their program's chances. Yeah. And it's just like, listen, Les Wexner, who is an Ohio State booster, is one of the top 10 richest people in the entire country. If he really, really wanted to, couldn't he just set up a fund that says everybody who's on the Ohio State football team has to tweet out something about the limited brand, and I'll give everybody $100,000 a year to do it? Like, I'm waiting for when T-Boo Pickens was alive, or one of these major boosters who's a legitimate billionaire. Phil Knight. Like, okay, you want Oregon to win a national championship? Start backing up the Brinks truck and offer every single person on the scholarship player $500,000 during their college career to tweet about their Nike stuff. Why couldn't you do that?
And by the way,
$85 million is a drop in the bucket to that guy.
It's not though. It's not. That's not a fiscally sound move. So,
and that's why it's not going to happen, because people who are rich are usually
these people
smart.
didn't get rich by being stupid.
Yeah.
So we gotta pause for another second, but interesting transfer news that just came down, because this was a quarterback who I was very excited to see where he went, where he landed, and he is going to combine with a coach that I think this combo makes things very, very interesting. We'll talk about it when we come back. Ritual is a plant-based, sugar-free protein powder reimagined to be a building block for your daily life. I know protein powders and supplements can be a little intimidating, but Ritual was made to make nutrition safe, transparent, and free of all the other BS that can make it hard to find the right products. Made without gluten or genetically modified ingredients, Ritual provides essential protein and nutrients that support bone health, brain health, and lean muscle mass. Mixing it up is as easy as shaking one scoop in your water bottle, and the one-of-a-kind recipe gives it a richer, tastier flavor than any other shake. So why not shake up your Ritual? To make something new, less scary, Ritual offers a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% in love. Plus, my listeners get 10% off during your first 3 months. Just visit ritual.com/PARX9V3. That's ritual.com/PARX9V3 to get yours today. That is ritual.com/PAR-X9V3. It's bowl season, and these days, bowl season can be a little confusing. You don't know which players are playing. You probably can't remember which coaches are coaching which team. And then, do you even know who the sponsors are? I don't think there's a Weed Whacker Bowl anymore. Cheez-It is not in Arizona. It's in Florida now. So it's very confusing. But here's the thing. There are people who can help guide you through it. And the best people to do it are the ones on BetMGM Tonight, presented by BetMGM. BetMGM Tonight is a high-energy live destination for casual and hardcore sports fans alike. It's engaging, it's polarizing, it's relevant. You get caught up in the sports betting world with a heavy dose of entertainment. Your hosts, Quentin Mayo from NBC Sports Washington, Ryan Horvat from 1250 AM The Fan, and Trista Crick are joined by on-site correspondents to bring you insider information in real time. Every detail matters when making bets. BetMGM Tonight dives deeper to help give you the edge. It's fun to bet on the game. It's even more fun when you got the inside scoop. So tune in to BetMGM Tonight, presented by BetMGM. You can listen on Odyssey, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. These days, it can be hard to find and hire the right candidates for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs made it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Like the first job I got hired for, I was like the 7th choice. They were lucky that so many people applied, and it might have just been 7, but hey, I'm glad I got it. But you don't have to deal with that anymore. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, and use screening questions to get your role in front of only the most qualified candidates. Maybe not me. Then use the simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs to quickly filter and prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates worth interviewing faster. Did you know that every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Andy. That's linkedin.com/Andy to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. So, big news out of the transfer portal, all right? And this is probably the one quarterback I was most excited to see where he wound up. Dillon Gabriel, former UCF quarterback, is headed to UCLA to play for Chip Kelly.
So is it just assume that DTR is leaving?
He has not said that. He has not said whether he's staying or going, but I would assume based on this news that he is, because I don't think Dillon Gabriel was going to a place where he was going to sit.
Yeah, because DTR I thought was a really good quarterback when he was playing well anyway. I know I had some injury stuff going on, and but Dillon Gabriel I think has some pretty insane stats to back up like what he brings to the table. In 2+ seasons at UCF, didn't he throw for more than 8,000 yards, 70 touchdowns, and less than 15 interceptions?
His numbers when Heupel was coaching there were obscene.
And I know that UCF is more athletically built to pile on points on some of the teams they play every year, but I'm very excited. It's just like, I don't know how much longer you think the Chip Kelly leash at UCLA of the leash of benefit of the doubt will extend. But, now you have another year to look forward to. And I think they were a little bit better this year. And, will UCLA just be a top 25 program? I mean, this is a pretty nice step in the right direction, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. This is a huge step. And I think the Chip Kelly question's been answered because they would have made a decision otherwise by now, I would think, because he's got 1 year left on his deal. Either you extend him or you figure out. It sounds like they're going to extend him. I mean, why? If you're going to fire him now, why? Why'd you wait?
Yeah.
So this seems like they're planning on Chip Kelly being there for the long term. In which case, hey, you now have your quarterback of the future, Dillon Gabriel. With the COVID year, has at least 2 more years. I believe he can redshirt this season because he got hurt early, and so it may have 3 more years that he could play. And I don't know that he'd make it that far because if he puts up the kind of numbers he was putting up at UCF, then he's probably going to the draft. But I think that's a really interesting pickup. Speaking of quarterbacks, and we've already mentioned this guy's name.
Before we go on to the next quarterback, can I just say something? Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought this would be a nice segue. Just so everybody knows, we're a day removed from National Signing Day, and the Pac-12 stunk. The highest rated class in the Pac-12 was Stanford at 15. And I think UCLA is way down there past the 50s. They're 46. And it's just like, I don't know what's going to happen, or if USC is just going to run through it like Clemson did in their heyday in the ACC with everybody down. But like, this whole conference is completely and utterly irrelevant on the national talent acquisition stage. And I thought it would just be a nice time to mention it because, that's one of the things that you take a look that I don't think there's any there's no Big 12 team in the top 25, I believe, that's not Texas and Oklahoma.
It's not going to the SEC.
Yes. Oh, I take that back. Oklahoma's 25th. It's the highest rated Big 12.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Sorry, I don't know what I said. And then everybody else is below it. So you've got 2 conferences that are being left behind from a talent standpoint. And obviously USC is in a weird transition, and they might sign the funniest class of all time, which is a top 50 class, a class with 4 or 5 top 100 players in it that doesn't finish in the top 50 because it just doesn't have that many players in it. But like, I don't know. It's just another year of Pac-12 not getting it done.
Well, I think USC will probably sign a top 10 class in 2023. I have a lot of faith.
Yeah.
I also think USC will upgrade its talent on its roster this offseason for the 2022 season, just not through signing high school.
Yeah, players. USC is obviously the one that you would take as the exception. Like I think that USC will run through the Pac-12.
Be fine too.
Yeah,
they had a coach.
Oregon has a coach that understands how to recruit at a high level because of where he comes from, so that helps.
Yeah, so I'm not as worried about that, and I'm curious. Like I said, I'm curious to see who comes out of the portal. Let's talk about another quarterback, and let's get to our bowl previews because we were going to do an entire bowl preview show. There's just too much news for that, but there are games coming up. They start on Friday. There are a lot of games on Saturday. We got games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It really is. But one of the games is the Cure Bowl. That game is Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. Northern Illinois, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, an 11-point favorite. One of the more interesting aspects of this game is Coastal Carolina QB Grayson McCall, who we've talked about a little bit already today. He talked this week about the future and basically said he's not going to the NFL, but he has not confirmed or denied whether he's coming back to Coastal Carolina. So that's a guy who could be a big transfer target if he decides. This is a guy, remember, led the nation in yards per attempt, the most efficient quarterback in the country.
That's crazy because he's not even the best quarterback in his own game. I'm just kidding. I just love Rocky Lombardi.
I know. He looks like Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I think that that would be something. Yes. And it'll be interesting too to see because over the years, there's one thing that the group of 5 has been able to do that, maybe, and I don't know if this is a fact or it just seems this way, but the group of 5 of all the positions that have had outstanding athletes and successful NFL players, it seems to me, have been at the quarterback position. And since the transfer portal is the mecca of quarterback, movings, comings, and goings, I'm very curious to see how many times a group of 5 team that has a quarterback that slings it around in a pass-happy offense will be a very marketable transfer candidate for a Power 5 team that wants to win a national championship or compete to win their conference. So it'll be certainly something to keep your eye on.
We also have football in the Bahamas. Toledo is a 10-point favorite over Middle Tennessee at noon Friday. I don't have any big opinions on that game. I could lie to you and say I did, but I don't.
My big Saturday opinion is that I know somebody who's covering that game, and I hate them.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I've always wanted to cover that game.
I've always wanted to go to the Bahamas. I've never been to the Bahamas.
I have not either. But
there's a casino there.
Yeah, I've heard. It does seem like a place that would intrigue you.
Yeah,
there's some good games on Saturday. You got Western Kentucky, Appalachian State in the Boca Raton Bowl. Bailey Zappi and that offense against one of the better teams from the Sun Belt. UTEP Fresno State in the New Mexico Bowl. Jake Hayner said he's going to stay at Fresno State now that Jeff Tedford is coming. That's a big one. UAB BYU in the Independence Bowl. Eastern Michigan Liberty in the Lending Tree Bowl, which is the one in Mobile. So that's probably your last chance to watch Malik Willis as a college football player.
Yeah, it's like I don't know that these matchups are jumping off the page exciting, but I do think that they all have very entertaining players that are worth watching.
Here's one I think could be really good. The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. So Jimmy Kimmel is sponsoring a bowl game. It's at SoFi Stadium where the Rams and the Chargers play. Utah State and Oregon State. So you got the champions of the Mountain West. Blake Anderson did a fabulous job taking over Utah State. If you followed his career at Arkansas State, he was really good there. He won the league there. His wife passed away from cancer while he was there. It basically got to be a situation where he had a hard time staying there because everything kind of reminded him of her, and so needed a change of scenery. Goes to Utah State immediately. They win the Mountain West, and then Oregon State. Jonathan Smith did one of the best coaching jobs in America this year, and they are like they were 7-5. But there was never a game they went into where it didn't feel like they could win it. And at Oregon State, that is a monumental achievement.
7-5 is immediate head coaching candidate at Oregon State.
He's at his alma mater.
Who cares?
It makes it hard to say, oh, go take him. Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I know. But
I love the head coach in Arizona. I would go be the head coach of Florida in a second. I don't know how much people actually, do people actually, are they just like, you know what? I'm at the place that I happen to go to college. I'm just never going to go to a bigger job because I love this place so much.
Depends on where you went to college.
What if you went to college at Oregon State?
Well, who's offering?
Anyone? Oregon State's like the hardest job in the Power 5.
But you can't go to Oregon, right? Even though you could probably live in the same house depending on where
who's
where
offering.
You live.
Let me come up with a few places that are offering, and then you can tell me Andy Staples, proud graduate of Oregon State University, head coach, just won 7 games at Oregon State and has proven that they have what it takes to make them a competent Power 5 team. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Yeah. Arizona State offers you.
Yes. Where do I sign?
Right?
Yes.
Auburn.
Give me. Yes.
UCLA.
I don't know if I want to deal with the traffic.
That's the downside. Living in Beverly Hills. I was watching Selling Sunset. You ever watch that show, Selling Sunset? Have you heard that? Have you heard of that show? It's on Netflix, and it's about the Oppenheim group, and it's just a bunch of real estate agents who sell $17 million homes in the hills. And I watched that show with my fiance because I like it. And I just I don't know how anybody would. Why would you live anywhere else if you had the means to do it? And if you're the UCLA coach, you do. Go get a sick house in the Hollywood Hills and run the clock out with a glass of
But if you're
scotch,
the
and a
Auburn
cigar.
coach, you could basically live in a castle with a moat around it. If you're the UCLA coach in the neighborhood UCLA, you're just living in a normal house.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this.
Okay.
If I gave you a duffel bag with $100 million of unmarked bills,
yes,
and you could use it, it's legal, nobody's coming for it, it's your money to do with what you leave. But the stipulation is if I give you that bag, you can never leave the state of Alabama again. Would you do it?
Oh, yeah.
You would never. I would never do that.
If Alabama didn't have a coastline, I would say no. But Alabama has beaches. So, yes, I would
Orange
absolutely
Beach is amazing.
Yeah, 100% I'd do that.
See, there's two different types of people, though, because I wouldn't do that. Because I think the entire point of having all that money would be to travel extravagantly and to have a private jet and to drive my Rolls Royce Phantom on South Beach and like all the things that I would like. I would be the biggest jackass if I had that much money. And I just feel like there's a limit to what you could do.
I could get Archibald's ribs whenever I wanted. I could go to Muscle Shoals and listen to some music. I could hang out on Orange Beach. I could have turtle soup in Mobile.
There's two types of people in this world.
At that place on the causeway.
People who want to live in LA because it sounds and looks amazing and think it's beautiful and it's worth the hassle. And there's people like you who just want to live more peacefully.
But a lot of it is I've been to LA. Like,
so have I a million times. It's amazing.
I used to do a TV show and not just LA, like Orange County as well. When Jim Rome had the show on CBS Sports Network, they would bring you out for a week at a time and you'd be staying in Newport Beach or Costa Mesa or, and so
you don't want to live there.
Newport,
every time I'm
Huntington.
there, that's all I whenever I'm there, I'm getting married there in May in Laguna Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking every time I'm there, I can never possibly leave this place ever again. And every time I leave, I have a pit in my stomach. It is that perfect. And also being in LA like us is different than being in LA when you have $100 million.
But here's the thing. I can have my fun anywhere, especially if we got $100 million. Like, I like all these people are like, this town's a dump. And like people say this about Starkville, Mississippi all the time. I can have a great time in Starkville, Mississippi. And if you can't, I feel sorry for you. Like,
I can have a great time anywhere. That's not the point. It's where you want to exist every single day.
I could live there and be happy. But yes, I like a quieter existence. I don't want to live in a big city. I have no desire to live in a big city.
I want to swim into my swimming pool that looks out onto the downtown LA skyline, the ocean, and the canyons all at the same time while hitting golf balls off my roof. And I don't know if that'll ever happen to me, but like I am completely infatuated with the ability to be Lincoln Riley. Like I don't know if I were a college coach, winning at the highest level would obviously be the most important thing, and recruiting territory and all these things. But I would much rather be rich in LA than rich in Norman, Oklahoma.
I don't know, man. Have you had Neighborhood Jam? Have you had that biscuit sandwich at Neighborhood Jam?
I'm sure that there's pretty good food in LA.
It's okay.
And also, just because you live there doesn't mean you're never going to go there again. That's also the thing, too. Just like the whole point of food is to enjoy the delicacies that you don't get access to every day. You don't want to live in the same place.
You're the one who locked me in the state of Alabama. You're the one who said I have $100 million and I can't leave. So.
Well, that was like, I mean, okay, what if I moved you up to West Virginia? Then what would you do?
No coastline. Gotta be able to get to some salt water.
Yeah.
Got to be able to find some salt water. Sorry.
We haven't been talking about college football for 12 minutes.
I don't care. It's a fascinating conversation. And I do remember where it started. It was the Jonathan Smith thing. It was would you leave your alma mater?
And then you said it's your alma mater as if that's the only thing that matters in life.
It doesn't. It isn't. And I believe the analytics when they say it doesn't matter if you're at your alma mater, that doesn't help you or hurt you. It's not really important. Because trust me, I've been listening to people in the town where I live while there was a job opening going, you got to get a Gator or you got to hire a bunch of Gators because it means something. No, you just have to hire people who are motivated to do the job they've been hired to do.
Those are the Rudy people. The people who think college football is Rudy. Let me ask you this. Do you think Dabo Swinney has more fun memories?
You know what the funny thing about it is? Let me stop you there. I was freaking Rudy. Do you know what that means? It hurts. Rudy. The other players are way better. They
No,
kick
I
your
know,
ass every
but the
day.
Rudy people think that the scholarship players are you. And also, you didn't go to
Yeah,
Florida because of your underlying love for the university, and you were going
true.
to
I did not
sacrifice
grow
your
up loving
body for
Florida. I
Florida.
went to Florida because
Like Rudy,
I had a
Rudy went to Notre
scholarship.
Dame because he loved Notre Dame football more than he loved himself, and he wanted to sacrifice his body for the good of the program. And I'm sorry, that's not what goes on. But do you think Dabo Swinney has more fond connection to Clemson or Alabama now?
That is a great question, and I was always on the side of if Alabama opened and he was offered the job, he would stay at Clemson because
Yeah, it's okay to
he would be
create
the
new chapters in your life. Like that's the craziest
yeah.
thing. I'm thankful that this is the case, but it's always been very fascinating to me that for whatever reason, people take where they went to college and they take those 4 years and they freeze in time as the thing that they have the most steadfast connection to for the rest of their life. And
Well,
it's like
Ari,
that's
here's why. I'll tell you why. Because for a lot of people, not every person, but for a lot of people, it's the first place they fell in love. It's the first place they did this. The first place they did that.
first place they did
The
that for
things
sure. Yeah.
exactly. It's a pretty deep connection. These are very important milestones in people's lives, and
No, I know.
yes, they look at that very fondly. So
But some people hit the
yes, there
brakes
is a
on
little bit
that
deeper
period of
connection.
their time, and then that's the only thing that matters for the rest of their life. And I find that to
Yeah,
be
but
odd.
that's just a different version of the person who peaked in high school.
Yeah.
Slightly more evolved version of the person who peaked in
Just
high
like I
school.
went to the University of Arizona. I like going to homecoming. A lot of my best friends went there. I think it was a really great place to go, and I enjoy it. But like, I don't think about U of A when I wake up in the morning. I don't know. Maybe I'm the weird one.
You know who does? Jed Fish. You know
Yeah.
why?
By the way, great
Because that's
class.
what they pay him to do.
Great class.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
Considering the roster he inherited, Jed Fish did an amazing job this recruiting cycle. So yeah, Ari, that one more game and then we're done here. Louisiana, Billy Napier's already gone. They just won the Sun Belt title a couple weeks ago. They play Marshall. Charles Huff still at Marshall. He interviewed for another job, but is still at Marshall. The Raging Cajuns are a 5-point favorite. They seem settled. They've already got the successor lined up. I think that'll be another fun game. I think Saturday is going to be a lot of fun in football. So you're going to have all those games in 2 NFL games.
You know what the cool thing
This is
about
great.
bowl season is that in the regular season, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by what's going on because there's 900 games going on at the same time. And that's the beauty of it, but it's also the anxiety of it, especially when you're in our line of work. The cool thing about bowl season is that you can wake up on Saturday and you can watch all these games for the most part over the weekend at different times and enjoy that whole game and not feel like you're missing anything else and appreciate the great players that are playing in these games. And I'm excited because I think that Malik Willis is an awesome player. Ask me how many games of his this year I watched from start to finish.
I would bet it's 0.
I'm excited to make it 1.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where you get a chance to watch a team that you maybe didn't get to see all season. My favorite is these games where people are like, well, these games don't matter. And then some team wins on a walk-off touchdown pass and they're just going berserk. And I'm like, oh, you sure they don't matter? You know why they matter, Ari? Because it's 2 football teams playing a game and they're keeping score. That's why it matters.
And it's fun.
It doesn't need to mean any more than that.
That's right.
That matters to most people. If they're keeping score, most people would like to win. So I think this is going to be another great week. There's gonna be a lot more news to digest. We'll be here to talk about it. That's what our job is, and it's not stopping. But hey, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna imagine now for the next 3 days what I would do with my duffel bag full of $100 million, and I'm never allowed to leave the state of Alabama. A lot of good meals to plan. We'll talk to you later.